Chairman and members of Board of Seredec, Your Excellencies and distinguished participants for this summit. I bring you good tidings and felicitations from government and good people of Enugu State. Enugu State is in the hands of God, and when we came on board in 2015, we handed Enugu State to God, and we thank God that He's been guiding our state, been guiding our people. So this awesome God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, and the God of David, we give him glory, we give him adoration. Enugu State today is secure because God is with us. It's ranked by the 2019 report by the Nigerian police as the safest state in this country. We also want to say that we have played host as the former capital of Southern Province, former capital of East Central State, the former capital of Old Anambra State, and the former capital of Old Enugu State, and today the capital of Enugu State. We have played host to previous summits. It is not surprising because Enugu State is home to every Igbo man. We therefore want to say that we miss you today. We miss Seredec, we miss the participants, because our state would have been bubbling. We would have hosted our former governor, but we still thank God that we're alive. We'll get beyond COVID, and we still get together again. I want to thank the organizers for this summit, and I want to thank them for ensuring that with or without COVID, we can march forward together. You will recall the efforts of the Southeast governors in ensuring that our international airport is back. I am happy to say that Enugu State government were in the forefront of ensuring that that airport is back. We not only relocated the Emene Market, we relocated the mast, and we also provided perimeter fencing. As we speak, the state government is spending more than 200 million naira in providing modern toilet facilities to the international airport. We cannot overemphasize the importance of that airport because we know, just as His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi pointed, and we therefore believe that that airport will play a very pivotal role in sustaining the economic development of the Southeast. We have ensured that the ease of doing business in Enugu has been made much easier, coming within the first third of all the states of the Federation in Ease of Doing Business Index. We are also happy to say that after Lagos and Rivers State, Enugu State is the next in terms of fiscal sustainability. We can therefore say that the Southeast is prepared to take the next leap forward in terms of development. And with a summit of this nature, we believe that we are on course. I therefore want to thank you on behalf of the good people of Enugu State and to wish you well in the course of your deliberations. Enugu State is truly in the hands of God. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, speaking through our multi-talented DG and Secretary to the state government. Thank you so much for those kind words and for ever being the host. I will now ask Mrs. Uchoma Egwatu, who is the regional manager for the FCDO. Those of you like me in the old world will call it DFID, Pearl program, who have been providing tremendous support on this journey that we'll be making at the Southeast Summit Group. Madam?
Thank you, Dr. Mark. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. Permit me to stand on the already existing protocol and welcome everyone to this summit, the fifth Southeast Economic Summit. I bring you greetings from Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office Partnership to Engage Reform and Learn, a governance reform program working in 7 locations in the country trying to facilitate reform of governance systems. I bring you greetings from the National Program Manager, who is supposed to be the one making these goodwill remarks, but is unavoidably absent. We are delighted to be part of this 5th Southeast Economic Summit. And we want to say that we are proud of the work Ceredec has been doing in facilitating a regional approach to Southeast economic development and continuing to provide the platform for stakeholders to come together and address issues of common interest. PEL, like Mr. Mark said before, Dr. Mark Abani said, has been providing support to this process since 2017. And we are happy to see that this summit has been sustained, even in the face of COVID. So we must commend Ceredec for that. And the emphasis of PEL actually has been on experience sharing and for stakeholders around the region to keep learning from one another, keep taking advantage of each other's comparative advantage, keep pulling resources together to achieve economies of scale. So we are happy to observe that a lot of progress has been made from the first time this summit started in 2017 up until now. So we want to see this process being sustained. So we are urging Ceredec to see how they can adopt a sustainable model to ensure continuity, to ensure that this process is being funded, and to ensure that broader stakeholders are brought on board to ensure that things keep moving on to towards the desired goal. So thank you very much, and I wish us a fruitful deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Egwatu, and thank you to FCDO Pearl for the support all through. We have had other partners who have come in and done their own bits, and some more we're expecting to come in again. Now I'm going to give a background presentation on previous Cs on what we've been doing and what we intend or hope to achieve at the outcome of this virtual Southeast Economic Summit, which in itself, I believe, is living up to some of the exhortations of His Excellency Peter Obi for innovative and creative approaches to making sure things remain online. I would also forewarn His Excellency that we already have got a couple of questions online. You may decide to have a look at them to get ready for when I will call you to answer some of those questions. For those of you on Zoom, we also have a live streaming of this on YouTube as well. So our participation is a lot wider than may be apparent from the Zoom login, and it's across the entire world. So we do hope that everybody who joins in is able to participate. We want it to be more interactive. Could I please have the slide set up? Could I please have the slide set up? Bottom right-hand corner, you look for more. Just take it to the slides so that everybody can see it clearly. Okay, so thank you very much for bearing with us as we set the scene for what has happened, our journey so far. Next slide. So to give you a bit of background, some of this has already been provided by the chairman of Ceredec, Professor Barton Naji, by indeed Professor Otanya, the DG of the Southeast Governors Forum and the Secretary to the Enugu State Government, and by our Pearl colleagues, especially Uchoma. So by way of background, the Southeast Governors Forum and the private sector partners led by Ceredec, quite some time ago, 2014-15, these conversations started, wanted to have a regional platform, and that regional platform has been organized around the annual Southeast Economic Summit meetings. SEAS itself is slowly developing into a quasi-independent activity and event that will hopefully continue to make sure that all stakeholders in the region have an opportunity to share opportunities and work together. It's a multi-stakeholder event, the summits themselves, and provides an opportunity for the government, the private sector, and for citizens to interact on issues relating to the development of the Southeast. As we've said several times, this is the 5th in the series. It's been extremely successful in driving regional thinking and dialogue, because it's one thing to have individual states or even individual town unions wanting to run particular things, but what we need to do is to have the regional dialogue, especially on ease of doing business and regional infrastructure projects, because one road must join into another road in another state, one rail line must pass through another one, so we need to have a regional approach. This one is being held virtually, as we all know, and also in an environment where there are lessons coming out from the NSAS peaceful protests and the impact of COVID-19, or COVID-19, sorry, let me not invent a new disease. This summit is really focusing around youth as the engine for the Southeast entrepreneurship and industrialization. But in doing this, we are also very conscious of promoting gender balance and promoting industry across the piece and inclusivity. And I say gender balance because a lot of our laws, including some of our traditional land tenure and indeed our treatment of our Uriakos, our Udoziakos, and our partners, falls far short of what would allow us achieve our full potential. Next slide. So the objective of this particular event, and it's called Actions for Success. Unlike many of the current talk shops that I listen to, that we all take part in, we are making this action plan based. And we did an earlier series that was an action plan based, and it actually gave us a lot of progress. We'll show you what happened there. But a heavy focus is on how the Southeast can benefit from the numerous federal government intervention funds, especially for young startups. How the region can mobilize the required investments, especially from Igbo investors, businesses, entrepreneurs, and citizens both in Nigeria and diaspora. And we have speakers who are Igbos in diaspora who are also promoting exactly the same thing. So it will be very interesting to listen to the presentation and to interact and to ask questions. As I say every year, this conversation is the start of a conversation, not the end, and it's a rekindling as we go along. Recent reports have also shown that the Southeast as a region has not had any significant foreign direct investments in the last 2 years. So why is it that we are not being approached? There are things that we as a region should be able to attack and to address in order to make sure we release the full potential to benefit from all of these funds. Now I'll just take you back, because I know some of you are coming on board for the first time, and I won't spend too much time, but this slide deck will also be available on the Ceredec website for downloading immediately after this event is over, so you can take your time and of course always come back to us for more. So SEAS one in 2016, which had the theme Southeast Economic and Security Summit, had a lot of engagement. Top right hand corner just gives you one of the screenshots of pre-virtual. Some of you watched this and remember how life used to be when we could sit side by side and interact. But at that event, we launched Ceredec, its vision and its mission, which I've articulated below there, and Prof has already articulated. It's a robust platform to to drive sustainable economic growth and social development, to enhance security in the Southeast, and it continues to support think tanks such as the Sea Summit and offshoots of it for developmental strategies, mobilization of resources, coordination of policies, which is extremely important, involving all the critical stakeholders, both at federal, local government, and state levels, and at the community level. And I'm also very happy that we have participants from the town union associations of the Southeast as well, because it has to get to the roots. And that sees also kickstarted the mobilization of stakeholders' commitment to actually doing this under the aegis of the Southeast Governors Forum. Next slide. Seas 2 was repositioning the Southeast for rapid economic development, and key outcomes there was a Southeast Governors Forum driven geopolitical mapping by the Brent Hurst Foundation. And it actually went through and asked us some very hard questions. You've got all of these resources. These are the ways you can release them, but these are your bottlenecks. And talking of bottlenecks, we also looked at the bottlenecks and potential actions to address infrastructure gaps, covering agriculture, transport, finance, healthcare, industry, and education, and an agreement of the overarching projects that would make the most rapid changes in our Southeast development. And finally, we also were able to identify during that very interactive session, which was held at Nike Lake, with several hundred people face to face, the key bottlenecks to the ease of doing business covered capacity building, multiple taxation, credit we always ask for, funding, the issues around land tenure, for infrastructure we always talk, but this was taking it beyond just identifying these. It was taking it into identifying clear actions that could provide some results. Let's move forward a further year to 2018. Next slide. Next, yeah. And in this one, our theme was trying to make us an investment destination. And so for that one, we had lots of people coming in from Russia, from Dubai, from so many other countries, in order to try and showcase the potential for foreign direct investment in the Southeast. And the key outcomes were working with the Southeast governments and the private sector stakeholders on the identified bottlenecks, and this has contributed in no small way to the better subnational ease of doing business in the southeastern states in the 2018 World Bank subnational report. It's done every 4 years. The previous one was 2014, and no southeast state was in the top half of the states in the federation. In 2018, I'm happy to say that Enugu was number 2. So Enugu State did extremely well, and 3 out of the 5 southeastern states were in the top 10 of improvements and so on. So there was a lot that we've done. We've worked with development partners and designed a common regulatory framework for rapid facilitation of business and investment processes across the Southeast, and all of these have led to a greater amount of interest and some actual investment in the Southeast. And we even went ahead to sign an MOU on investment opportunities with the Dubai government and with some other attendees. And we now have a standing partnership with the Dubai investment event that they have, which will hopefully open up and give greater opportunity for Southeast businesses to get international support for what they're doing. And we also conducted a practical review of how the traditional Igbo human capital and utilization strategies are working, and the Igbo traditional model of running business, because we found that this is even being promoted by international bodies. Amazon has started to try and use the approach. Google is trying to start using the approach. Harvard has written extensively about the Igbo traditional apprenticeship model. And in our studies, we also found out some of the issues, including how we can make it work properly. And fortunately, we have people who are going to be speaking later on from the Aba cluster, one clothing manufacturing, one leather industry. And if you've heard Ken speak before, you will be inspired by what they want and what they can do, and hopefully the geotech power will run that, will give the power that is so badly needed in that area. Last year, the theme was financing the Southeast economic development, and at this seminar, the summit, we were able to give updates on the various infrastructure projects that had been identified and commissioned, starting with SEAS 1, including the gas pipeline, which Professor Naji referred to, the rail network, where we now have blueprints and initial plans in place, hospital project, and the adoption of Enyimba City by Abia State government, supporting it and getting into a free trade zone. And this is a very practical step for ARCO, RULO. Let our money come back home. And with doing this one, we will start to create those jobs and those offshoots that will allow the youth to be able to engage. Ceredec has started to work very closely with Afrexim Bank and the UK Trade Agency. And even though things have been set back a little bit by COVID-19, there are a lot of things are still going on in the pipeline, and one of our plans is for maybe the next SEAS to actually unveil some of the things that we can do. We also have started to get a number of Southeast volunteers and philanthropists to indicate the investment in a model school for the science, technology, engineering, and mathematical approach, STEM. And again, this afternoon, today, we have one of the STEM stars of Anambra State, who helped our Anambra girls win the awards internationally in the US and other places. And we want to turn the theory into far more practice, improving the traditional methods of training and certifying the vocational training for youths in order to give them better job opportunities. And some of our previous speakers and participants, including Allo Aluminium and Innosum Motors, now have formal schools where they run apprenticeship for children. When I say children, it's because I'm gray-haired. Younger people to actually learn their trade in a proper environment. So things are happening. Then let's come to, so we doesn't look back. Let's come to where we are today. Next slide. Okay, so let's just glance into future summits, starting with this one. The theme around here is post-COVID economic growth strategy, actions for success. And what we hope will be the outcomes of this particular event are that we will have actions to promote economic growth. So we will in the process get specific actions from our interactions and conversations today. We want actions that focus on special fundable and partnership or mentorship-driven projects for the youth, and gender-balanced employment with a technology input on startups. And we have Gerald, who's the former managing director of Galaxy Backbone, who will be giving us a roadmap on how we can run ICT, how the government's working with the private sector can have ICT to allow all of our clever youths, and I'm always amazed when I interact with them about how they can use this technology to become the future Facebooks. Tommy Lube is an international serial entrepreneur of Igbo extraction. On average, he sells one of his companies every 4 or 5 years for several $100 million. All of them are internet security. Farm Crowdy is a young Igbo guy who has now brought the finance and agriculture together online in a humongous way. And we also have, for any of you who do your verified by Visa, that again was a startup company that was formed by 2 young Igbo guys and was also sold to Visa for millions of dollars. So we have our own Bill Gates and our own Mark Zuckermans, but we need to come out of this conference understanding what we can do as a region to allow these industries run. We want to have suggestions and actions to provide funding of socio-economic projects for the most vulnerable segments of our population, the women, who we often forget, even though they are the back horse and power bone of almost everything that we actually do in the ground. Our restless and restive unemployed young men and women, And we need to capacitate them to take care of their basic human needs like food security, housing, healthcare, and family obligations. And His Excellency P2B alluded to this in his opening remarks. When somebody has some personal dignity, it allows them to actually engage more. And finally, we're sort of trying to build and foster all Southeast-based groups with a focus on Southeast development so that together we can do more. One of our biggest issues is that we often divide. We can divide to achieve lots of things, but ultimately we need to come together, and we hope that future Seas summits will be an area where we can come together, share the achievements we have made in our different groups, and encourage each other and decide what are the priorities and what are the signages and symbiosis so that all of these groups can make a greater impact. Thank you very much. So, you can. So this is sort of the background to what we are doing today. And His Excellency P2B, as usual, was able to key into exactly what we are talking about and to start to give practical examples there. We are now going to move on to session 1. But just before I do that, can I ask His Excellency P2B, have you had a chance to have a look at some of those questions from the younger people? I know there was one on money, as usual. If you could please.
I wasn't seeing it very clear. Your president, you have to act.
Okay, can you put it up so I can read it?
Or you can ask it so that I can just take it now.
Yeah. You had one before. You've done for me. Where is it? No, the question. The question.
I want you to record it.
Sorry, don't worry. We're just trying. We're all new to this technology. From the chat room, just copy paste it in and put it up there so I can see it and then I can read it. Quick. I know it was a question from one of our younger participants. It inevitably involved money. Okay, so it said, Your Excellency P2B, please address how to walk across party lines to strengthen our drive. That's not the question I wanted, but bear that in mind, Your Excellency. There's another question there. Please check it quickly. It was about quite up while His Excellency was still speaking. It was before you posted all those links. This is from Chibueze Obi George from Imo State, living in Enugu State, so already a multinational Igbo person within our region. And the question was, P2B, what do you advise young people who have the skills and abilities but no money or access to money? How would they get the necessary support? So those were the two key questions. This one is really the question I'm sure everybody is wanting to ask. Your Excellency.
Well, let me start with that last one. Is that, like I said before, that the greatest impediment to the youth is being able to have access to funds. That is not an easy question to answer, because I would even throw it even to the SEDEC to be able to help. Because when I was studying what they need to do for the Southeast, my thinking is that this is the time for even the region to look at how to set up a robust micro credit bank that will cut across the region and support what I said before, entrepreneurship. There must be a coordinated fiscal and monetary policy that will be able to drive this process. Today, you hear announcements about all various supports, and I'm sure you said a lot of people are going to talk how we can access some of the government supports post-COVID or this. I can tell you, most of those supports are announcements. Nobody has been able to access anything. And the banks in Nigeria are not supporting businesses because the economy is not private sector led. People are not supporting businesses. If you look at the entire banking loan today in Nigeria, as at the last time I knew, you're talking
Your Excellency, I don't know if your connection has got a problem. Can other participants hear? Raise your hand if you can. You need. I think we have lost His Excellency P2B, but we will always grab hold of him anytime he comes back on board. We're now going to move on to our first session, which is improving the Southeast business environment. And what we have spoken about is the Southeast is a recurring issue in all SEAS events. And although there have been improvements, as I said, on the World Bank ranking, but as Zebediah used to say, I would like to eye market, not ear market, which means I want to see it and not hear about it. And that's precisely what His Excellency P2B has been referring to in reference to a lot of announcements. Service delivery remains a big issue. And although we've been doing work with various states across the piece, we find out that there are still some people who do not understand that service delivery is key. You just really get out of the way to allow businesses run their things efficiently. And there were very interesting issues that emerged from the Pearl study with SEAS about younger participants and the failures, things that were causing the model to work. So I'm very pleased to introduce our panelists, and we'll ask them to unmute themselves as I call them. Mr. Emmanuel Azubike. Oh, is he here physically? Excellent. Let him come in and join us here. Mr. Ken Anyanwu. Is Ken here? Okay. Just bear with us for a couple of seconds as we try. No. How Is Mr. Kenya Yangu online? Okay, he's by phone. Mrs. Uche Onwamebu, I know she's online. I saw her a little bit earlier. This is a young woman who has shown that STEM can provide very, very positive results. And Mr. Oji Onwoka. Is Mr. Oji Onwoka online or physically here. Mr. Oji Onwoka is the owner of Frampton Clothing, one of the people we interacted with when we were in Aba, and has significant views about okay. So, can I please ask Emmanuel? You're more than welcome. Can you just give a very quick introduction of your name and what you do before we come back to your presentation?
Thank you, Dr. Chasabana. I'm Mazazubike Chemeka Emmanuel. I'm the promoter of Markets Work for the Poor. It's a project we adopted from the Market Development in the Niger Delta, sponsored by DFID in Imo State. Niger Delta, sorry. There we see a constraint in agriculture, and Mail was able to take 4 thematic areas in that Niger Delta, which is oil palm, cassava, poultry, and fishery. Thank you, sir.
Panelists on board. Is Ken able to join us? He's on phone. Have you able to make the connection to the Zoom? So can I ask Ken to please Ken, for those of you who don't know, Anyanwu is one of the key participants in the Aba leather industry. He's extremely passionate about the Aba leather industry and also about young people taking things forward. We're having a bit of a connectivity issue, but we will come back to him. May I ask Madam Mrs. Uche Onwamebu Ugu, our STEM expert, to please unmute and just say a couple of words about herself before we come to your presentation.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I know you can all hear me.
We can hear you, yes.
Okay. My name is Uche Onwamebu. I'm very, very passionate about bringing STEM education to the classroom and to make sure that our younger generation are equipped with the skills for tomorrow's workforce. Our program is currently running in some secondary school and primary school, knowing fully well that catching them young becomes very easy for us to grasp them, to know what they should do now and what they should expect in the future. So that by now...
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. I will give you 5 or 10 minutes to actually make a presentation. I know you're very passionate about what you're doing. Mr. Oji had originally told me that he had some problems. Have we got him online now? All right. Can you please? Okay, Mr. Oji Onwoka. Good morning. Please, could you just introduce yourself and your company? Then we'll come back to you for the discussion. Mr. Onwoka, Oh, sorry, this is Ken. Ken Anyanwu. Ken, normally I was just doing introductions before we start discussing. So if you don't mind, we'll keep you on the phone, and in a few minutes we'll come back and take your presentation, but we can hear you over the phone. Is that all right? Thank you. We're all learning new ways of working. So if I can come back to Emmanuel Azubike, who is here with us to give us about 7 or 10 minutes about what the project is and what actions we can take. Really, what we want are actions we can take that will promote regional integration and create jobs and value for the Southeast. Your time starts now.
Thank you, then. In the Southeast, the issue of unemployment has been there, development has been there, everything has been there. But the discussion on the change and delivery we are looking at is by what attitudes? By the leaders, either in government, private sectors, or donor agencies. And the way we'll be doing things before in the Southeast is quite different from other regions. By the time you look at the South